boys and girls. Welcome back to Lullaby Bedtime Stories. Tonight's story is entitled Jesus Mocked and Crucified. You can find these stories in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27, Mark 15, Luke 23, John 19. Jesus was taken away by the soldiers into the palace, the praetorium, where they called together the whole company of soldiers. And a company of soldiers had at least 100 men in them. Since you are the king of the Jews, we will dress you for the occasion, Jesus. They stripped Jesus and placed a purple robe on him. Then they twisted together a crown of thorns for his crown and smashed them upon his head. And blood streamed down his face and his forehead. Then they began to spit on him. They began to punch him in the face with their big Roman fists. And then they began to pull his beard out with their bare hands. They did this, boys and girls, over and over. They hit him on the head with a staff over and over, while calling out to him, "Hail, King of the Jews! Hail, King of the Jews!" And then, falling on their knees, they paid homage to Jesus, like they were honoring him and respecting him as a king. And after marking him, they took off the purple robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. Before they began the ascent to Golgotha, the mount called Calvary, they placed a wooden cross on Jesus' back and said, "Here, carry your own cross." The cross was big and heavy, and because Jesus had been beaten, tortured, all night long without being given his last meal or his last breakfast, he was very weak. Jesus tried to carry the cross by himself, but he kept stumbling and falling under the weight of the cross because he was so weak. Finally, a Roman soldier saw a man coming into the city for Passover. He laid his sword upon the man's shoulder and said, "Carry this man's cross." And so the man had no choice, because that is what you had to do if a Roman soldier laid his sword on your shoulder. The man was Simon of Cyrene, father of Alexander and Rufus from Africa. And so they arrived at Golgotha, the place of the skull, where they offered Jesus wine mixed with myrrh in order to deaden the pain and take away some of the pain that Jesus was feeling. But Jesus refused it. There they nailed Jesus' hands and feet to the cross and placed above his head an insignia which said, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." As they raised the cross in the air, Jesus cried, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing." Two thieves, two rebels were crucified with Jesus, one on the right and one on the left. One of the rebels began to hurl insults against Jesus and mock him. But the other one chimed in and rebuked him for saying, he said to him, "Don't you fear God? Since we are under the same sentence, we are punished justly for our crimes, for we are getting just what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing." Jesus, the man that said this, turned to Jesus and said, "Jesus, please remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." It was now about 12 noon, and darkness covered the whole land until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The earth began to shake like a drunk man, and the sun refused to shine, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Jesus called out with a loud voice, "It is finished. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And when he had said this, Jesus breathed his last. Boys and girls, Jesus died for the whole world. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. John 3:16. Remember that Jesus loves you with a love that cannot be measured. And I pray that he will watch over you, protect you, and keep you safe when you go out and when you come in. I pray this for you. Until next time, remember, this is Lullaby Bedtime Stories. Tell somebody, share Lullaby Bedtime Stories with them, and please subscribe. Until next time, I love you and Jesus loves you too. Bye-bye.